Well, I am back at my parents' place for the weekend, and I decided that I would go ahead and make another Doomsday Theory video because I've really made a video in like a couple days, but like 4 or 5 days since my last video, so I thought, hey, I can go ahead and make this video while I'm Jesus Christ. I figured I can go ahead and make this video while I'm at my parents' place for the weekend, and that video is talking about who is going to die in Avengers Doomsday, because I'm pretty sure somebody ain't making it out alive in this movie, because even though this is a part 1 and 2 situation, kind of like with Infinity War and Endgame, we still probably are going to get some character deaths in this movie. I think it would be kind of underwhelming if there wasn't a character death in this movie. So yeah, today I thought I would go ahead and talk about who I think is most likely to die and who I think is least likely to die, because I do have someone who I think is like pretty high up there, who I'm like, yeah, that person probably ain't making it out of this movie, and if they do, good on them, because I don't see how they could make it out of this movie. So I guess I'll go like get the obvious out of the way. I don't think any of the new characters that are going to be introduced are going to die in this movie. And what I mean by that is characters like, well, I guess the X-Men are technically old, so I guess any of the X-Men characters are fair game. Like, you know, Magneto and Professor X. I think those two guys are, like, for sure dying. But, like, other characters like Cyclops maybe could potentially die. But characters like Mystique or Gambit, I feel like those characters aren't gonna die. Or maybe like Beast, Nightcrawler. I don't think any of those guys are gonna die, but I think the one that is most likely is probably James Marsden's Cyclops, if we're being honest, because he is like the main X-Men, like he's the leader of the X-Men, so I feel like he could possibly die, and if not him, then probably Professor X and Magneto are probably going to die as well, because we've seen a lot of like emotional scenes with them in like the trailers and stuff like that. So I feel like those two are probably a given, and the fact that like the actors are like almost damn near 90 years old. So I feel like they gotta kill them off one way or another. So yeah, that's who I think is dying on the X-Men side of things. We got Professor X, Magneto, and Cyclops. But for the Avengers side of things, I don't really think we're gonna lose any of the Fantastic Four people. I think all of the Fantastic Four members are going to make it out alive in this movie just because they are new. Like I said, I don't think any new characters are going to die, so I feel like all of the Fantastic Four characters are safe and they ain't going nowhere. Maybe Johnny Storm, considering what we saw in the trailer of him like hugging who I would assume to be Franklin Richards based on the blonde hair, because the person that he was hugging had kind of blonde hair, so I'm assuming that it's Franklin Richards. Maybe Johnny Storm, potentially. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't really see any of the Fantastic Four people dying. But on the Avengers side of things, this is where we get into some of the characters that I do think have potential to be goners. Now, I'm going to get my obvious one out of the way, or not really obvious, but like the person who I see like the highest chance of possibly dying, and that unfortunately is Paul Rudd's Ant-Man. I don't really see Ant-Man surviving this movie, if I'm being honest. That kind of sucks to say, because I like Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. I think he's pretty funny. Him as Scott Lang, I find him to be pretty funny, even though like main reason why I think he is going to die is because his like last couple movies, like Ant-Man and the Wasp and Ant-Man Quantumania, those movies didn't really do that well, like, you know, at the box office or anything like that. So I feel like, and also the fact that Ant-Man is like, you know, gotten a full trilogy. He got his first movie, second movie, third movie. I feel like Ant-Man's time has unfortunately come to an end. So if anybody on the Avengers is going to be dying, it's unfortunately probably going to be Paul Rudd's Ant-Man. But also, who I think maybe has a good chance of dying is Thor, because Thor's been around since, like, you know, the phase 1 of the MCU back in 2011. That was when he was introduced. So he's been around for like 15 years. So I feel like if they want to kill off a like character that you've like connected to, and you've like, you know, you've built this emotional connection for, I feel like Thor is one of those characters who, if they kill, you would just be sitting there in disbelief, and you would just be like, why? Why did you feel the need to kill off Thor? But if not Thor, I don't know if Steve is going to die in this movie, because Chris Evans has confirmed that he is returning in Secret Wars. Like, he's mentioned that in an interview that he's going to start work on Secret Wars in a couple months. So Chris Evans is coming back in Avengers Secret Wars. So I don't see Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, dying in Avengers Doomsday, unless he does die as Steve Rogers in Doomsday and then comes back as a Johnny Storm variant. That is possible. That might happen. That could happen. Because realistically here, how is Bro going to survive Doomsday wearing just a regular ass t-shirt and some khakis? Bro is in the most average fit ever, or like the most basic fit ever. How is Bro gonna survive the movie? Because if Doom, like, traps him or something like that, or he, like, cuts his arm off or something like that because his arm is completely exposed since he's in regular ass t-shirt, what is he going to do about that? So, yeah, I think maybe he could die as Steve and then come back in Secret Wars as a Johnny Storm variant. Even though Johnny Storm did die in Deadpool and Wolverine, it could be like a Gambit situation where he is coming back, but as a different variant of the character. So, yeah, maybe Chris Evans could die as Steve Rogers in Doomsday. I'm not entirely sure. Like, maybe he dies protecting his kid or something like that. But I feel like Steve is going to make it out alive in Doomsday and will be in Avengers Secret Wars as Steve Rogers, not as Johnny Storm. But, yeah, those are like the only 3 Avengers that I see really dying. Ant-Man, Steve Rogers, and Thor. Those 3, I think, have like the highest chance of dying on the Avengers side of things. Like, maybe Bucky Barnes, but he is more of like a Thunderbolts or like a new Avenger character. So, yeah, this is going to lead right into what I was going to say next. And if any of the Thunderbolts were to die, like any of the Thunderbolt characters that were introduced in the Thunderbolts movie, like John Walker, Red Guardian, Ghost, Yelena, I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Well, Sentry as well. I think it's just those 5. Oh, and I guess Bucky Barnes too. If any of those characters would die, I feel like it might be Bucky Barnes, because he is the one that has been around the longest in the Thunderbolts team. He has been in the MCU also since like 2011. So I feel like it would be pretty tragic if Bucky Barnes finally, sacrifices his life, because really, what are the Thunderbolts going to do against Doctor Doom? Like, none of these guys, except for Ghost and Sentry, I guess, as well, have any superpowers whatsoever. Like John Walker, Red Guardian, and Yelena, even Bucky, they're all just, like, people who just, like, shoot guns, essentially, aside from, like I said, Ghost and Sentry. Sentry alone can probably defeat Doctor Doom, if we are being honest here. So, like, Sentry is hard carrying the Thunderbolts, if we're being real. But, yeah, if any of the characters die in Doomsday on the Thunderbolt side of things, I feel like it would probably be either Bucky or maybe Yelena, because they've been focusing a lot on Yelena. But I feel like it would be too soon to kill Yelena, because we were only introduced to her back in Black Widow in 2021. So I feel like killing her in Doomsday would be kind of crazy. So I don't really see them doing that. If anyone on the Thunderbolts would die, it could be Bucky Barnes, possibly Yelena, or I guess maybe Red Guardian. He's like protecting Yelena. He can sacrifice himself to like protect Yelena and sacrifice himself to, for Yelena and end up dying. Red Guardian, maybe. John Walker could also probably sacrifice himself just so that he could finally get his like redemption, because John Walker's been on like this kind of road to redemption, although not really, because he wasn't like the worst guy ever, but he was like a questionable guy. So I feel like maybe him sacrificing himself to stop Doctor Doom could be a way of like redeeming his character or something like that. So yeah, those characters could possibly die. And then I think that's really all, because I already talked about Fantastic Four, the Avengers. I don't see them killing, like, you know, Sam Wilson. I don't see him dying because he, like, just got the shield. If he gets the shield and becomes Captain America just to die in Doomsday, that would be like, come on, what are we doing? So Sam Wilson, I think, is 100% making it out, and I'm pretty sure he's also been confirmed to return in Secret Wars. So, yeah, Sam Wilson ain't dying in Avengers Doomsday. And I think that's really about it. I don't really see who else I talked about. So yeah, we got Magneto, Professor X, and Cyclops on the X-Men side of things. Fantastic Four, I feel like, for the most part, could survive. Maybe they kill off Johnny Storm, I don't know. And then on the Avengers side of things, I got Ant-Man, Thor, and Steve Rogers. And then on the Thunderbolt side of things, I got Bucky, Yelena, and then possibly Red Guardian and John Walker. But that's really about it. So, yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys had to pick anyone to die in Avengers Doomsday, you can let me know down in the comments below. Oh, I almost forgot. The GOAT himself, Shang-Chi. I don't see them killing Shang-Chi just because, just like with Yelena, he was introduced back in 2021. So I feel like it would be too soon to kill off Shang-Chi. So I don't think Shang-Chi's dying. And I also don't think Shuri is going to be dying as well. I think Shuri's probably going to make it out alive in Avengers Doomsday. So, yeah, that's really all I got for this video. We are only 66 subscribers away from 800. We are at 734. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. And I know, like I said in the beginning, I was kind of slacking on videos, but I'm going to try to get back to being a bit more consistent. But if I don't upload for like a week or so, then my next guaranteed video will be of Spider-Man Brand New Day, which I see on the 29th of July. And I'm just very much looking forward to that movie. It's my most anticipated movie of 2026, so I'll be able to get my review out on either the 30th of July or the 31st of July. I don't really know. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, if I don't upload for like a week or so, that'll be the next guaranteed video. But until then, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.